Good afternoon. A little bit later than I intended to start, but we're kicking off with a quick presentation on Tintri. For those people who don't really know what Tintri is, it's a technology that was developed around about 8 years ago, and it was developed originally by one of the senior VPs in development from EMC, who were working on the actual VMware environment and looking at how VMware interacted with storage platforms. And what we saw originally is people were utilizing traditional storage platforms, so predominantly block mode storage systems, to actually provide that storage capacity for virtualization. Because you were using an older type of technology within a modern environment, there were some challenges with it. And one of the key things that people found is they had to create lots of different logical units and RAID groups within their storage system, which meant lots of management and also headaches if you needed to resize things. But also, it was quite complex, so there were a lot of things that could go wrong. What we did though is they developed a system, Tintri VM Store, and Tintri is actually Gaelic for lightning. So the thing was talking about performance, and the drive was to reduce latency and increase throughput, but make the system as simple as possible. So what I want to do is just give you a little bit of an idea of Tintri and what Tintri can do for you. So first of all, if we look at what Tintri is providing, it's trying to do three key things. One is to save an organisation money by reducing the cost of management of that infrastructure and also making sure that infrastructure can last quite a long time. It's also saving time in the actual management and everyday usage. And most people we've spoken to don't spend more than 30 minutes a month actually managing their Tintri storage, which is a really big difference to traditional storage systems. But also, they're trying to increase agility in the organization. So people are moving towards agile development techniques, doing DevOps, and also looking at changing the way that they structure their organization, things like digital transformation, to make the business more agile as well. And virtualization in this, guys, and also moving towards containerization are the key things that people are looking to achieve that. So if you look at the traditional ways of doing things with traditional systems, you are constrained in some ways. One in the way that the actual storage works, and also the type of protocols that are being used as well. So these traditional things like fiber channel protocols, LUNs, and block storage were from days of old. Things that we used to do, but we don't need to do these days. But also, when we're preserving 80% of what we did before in our storage system with our traditional environment, a lot of it is towards keeping the old ways of doing things and very little towards innovation. The key thing about Tintri is actually providing more innovation. So giving you the ability to free yourself from the constraints of traditional environments and actually make it easier for you to actually deliver services through your infrastructure. And the solution itself is a 2U rep mount platform. It's all flash nowadays, and you can actually run anything on it. So you can run traditional database like Oracle, Tintri, SQL Server. You can run server infrastructure such as Exchange, SharePoint, Linux platforms, as well as Windows platforms within a VMware environment. You can also run traditional desktops through Citrix or VMware Horizon View as well. And in your DevOps environment, you've got the ability to use a number of automation tools, things like Chef, Jenkins, Puppet, Ansible, and those kind of things are quite popular in that space. But one of the key things that we're trying to achieve, especially around databases, and the latest release of Tintri around databases allows us to give more predictable performance for databases, because databases are the real thing that needs performance in a local environment. And a lot of people have struggled when they've tried to use databases in a public cloud environment because they lose that performance and control of it. So that's one of the key things that people are trying to do. Also, providing more visibility to understand what's happening at that VM level. A lot of organizations say that they give you information and understanding of what's happening at the VM level, but commonly it's actually just data that you can see elsewhere within the hypervisor's console or other places. Whereas VMware is actually extracting information and making it usable and beneficial to you at that level. But it's also giving you information across the whole of that environment, not just a compute, giving you understanding of latency figures across the network and also the storage environment. So you can quite quickly pinpoint where it. But finally, trying to automate all common processes and reduce the amount of management headache within that environment is a critical thing. One of the key things that Tintri does to be able to gain that level of performance is giving workload isolation. And the idea is it will learn and understand each workload and deliver the right amount of performance, so read-write capabilities, throughput, and information at low latency for that particular workload. And as it sees workloads change, it can adjust that slowly. But if you get a major change of a workload that could bring down other workloads, that doesn't happen, because what it will do is restrict it in its swim lane, as people would might say, if we were talking about swimming, and actually keep it restricted to the amount of capacity it would normally receive. Or you can actually fix quality of service metrics to it, say only give this amount of throughput and up capabilities for a particular workload, especially if you were trying to restrict things like test and development environments and you didn't want them to impact production environments. You can fix that down as well. But does it automatically? It's using artificial intelligence and machine learning to understand what those workloads are doing, how they're behaving, and ensuring you get the best performance. What we've seen with customers over the last year is a lot of organizations can put any type of workload on this and they don't have to worry about it. They're not concerned that it's going to cause any issues, and they're not going to have other workloads impacted by it. There is one terminology, the noisy neighbor, people get in some kind of virtualized environments, where we actually get one workload taking away all the service from a second workload, bringing it down. We've seen customers lose large amounts of infrastructure through that type of issue, from something as simple as a patch that's applied to a Windows server causes issues with rewrite against the storage infrastructure. But coming on to that, wouldn't it be better if you could actually know more about what was happening there? So have a better understanding of that environment, and be able to look at where the actual problem exists. Is it something to do with the CPU and the compute layer? Have we got some issues around swap space? Have we got some issues around the amount of CPU that's being consumed in that virtual machine? Is it the actual memory that's being consumed? Is it, the time it takes for that information to travel across a network because we've got a network issue? Or finally, have we got some constraints within the storage that's causing some issues and creating latency? With a solution, we can quite quickly look at a spike on a particular day, drill down into those sections, and get a much better understanding of what the issues are within our compute environment within that virtualized piece. So really quick to understand and work out what the issue is. That's all I wanted to cover today, was just to give you some of the basics of what VMstore can provide. And what we're going to do every Tuesday is add to that. So we've actually got an interview next Tuesday with Daniel Maxwell, who's going to tell us a little bit more about why he's joined Tintri and a little bit about his history. And he's got a really interesting way of giving people a view on what Tintri do in a 6.5 minute presentation with something like, I think, 64 slides or 65 slides. So it's really fast and furious, but it'll give you a really good sense of what really DDN and Tintri are about, but also the people behind DDN and Tintri. We've also got lots of videos we've done in the past working with, sadly, the late Mark Young, and talking through what customers have asked in the past and what they really thought was interesting about the solution and what we could do with it. So what we're going to do is go into more depth around each of those areas, things like visibility, but also some of the newer things around AI ops, where we can actually look at recommendations for improvements in where workloads are placed, and also to look at identifying and predicting capacity or performance, not only across the storage components, but also across the compute environment as well, because the Tintri unit can see all of that information. So come back and join us again. We're streaming live onto most platforms except for LinkedIn at the moment because we're waiting for our LinkedIn authorization. We're putting it up onto YouTube, and we'll put the link into LinkedIn for you to get there. If you want to subscribe, every Tuesday we're going to do the Tintri Tuesday, and we've got other technology we're doing each day. So come back and see us again in the future, and see what we've got to tell you about some interesting technology. Thank you very much.